Don't come after the pets, you SOBs. Good morning. Happy Friday. It's great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. I read more stories like this every day, and this one yesterday sent me over the edge. You know, you're leaving the house this morning. You said goodbye to your favorite dog, your favorite cat, maybe your favorite gerbil or guinea pig or hamster or whatever you got in the house. Turtle. You got pet turtles, John?
Kiss the fish.
Yeah. You guys have dogs, by the way? I don't think I've ever asked you. You got any pets there,
No
John?
dogs, two
No
cats.
Dogs? 2 cats. How about you there, Mark?
I have 2 dogs.
Oh, you got oh, that's right. I knew that. You
Yeah.
had 2 dogs.
2
Jeez.
little dogs.
2 little dogs. All right.
The cats came with the missus, by the way.
That's okay, John. I
I'm
know.
not a cat
I know you
fan.
got to protect yourself there. It's
Yep.
all right. Duly noted. By the way, you are remaining gainfully employed here. Now that you mentioned that part of it, I've got a dog myself. His name is Woody. Found him underneath our vehicle in Woodward, Oklahoma, 6 a.m. October 1st of 2012. He was a stray. Took him in, and he's been a great dog. Hasn't missed a beat 11 years later. Well, I love my pet. I know you love your pet. But the more I read things in media, the more I see headlines like this from Vox. The case against pet ownership. Yesterday, The Guardian writes this article. The case against pets. Is it time to give up our cats and dogs? A growing number of people argue that owning pets is unethical and that animals can never really have a good life in a human home. Now, hold on a second here. The same people that argue and make the case for, you know, more welfare programs, more government programs, because they're just giving stuff away. They're putting it on a silver platter for you. They're arguing against a world where I literally fill up my dog's food bowl twice a day. I give him water when he barks at me, and I toss him treats for going poop in the backyard. Just so we're clear here, the same people that want more government programs to support others don't like the idea of me essentially providing a government program for a pet who also brings me great joy. And I believe, he hasn't confirmed this, but I believe I give him great joy as well with belly rubs and head rubs and, you know, good boy and all that kind of stuff. I think it's very much mutual. But I've got multiple stories here from the last few days where now suddenly media is making the case against owning pets. So what are we supposed to do? Let them just roam the streets? Just let them run all over, what, Overland Park? Lee Summit? Liberty? What do you think there, John?
Wasn't it Bill Murray and Ghostbusters who foretold the dogs and cats sleeping together?
Maybe
It'll
that's what
be
they want.
anarchy.
By the way, we've got a neighborhood cat, and he does a great job. I've never seen a mouse anywhere around the house, so
Yeah.
he takes care of business.
Yeah.
But, you know, the dogs, let's be honest, the dogs are not cats. I love dogs. I'm not a cat guy. But if I sent Woody out for the night, I don't know where he'd end up. I know it wouldn't be back at the house, I'll tell you that much. So anyway, this article in The Guardian goes on the note, we may think that we're giving our companions rounded lives and putting them first when we rise early for walks or clean up another accident. But vets are saying that suffering of his family's much-loved bird is evidence that pet ownership is not about the animals. Okay, who am I attributing this awful quote to? This guy's name is Troy Vitesse. Gives this quote to The Guardian. Says here, if people really cared about animals, we'd only engage in rescues and helping animals sanctuaries, like their wildlife rehabilitation, things that we find fulfilling but that also help the animal. Instead, we only like relationships where they are easy, where the pets are well-maintained, where we can hire a dog walker, where it impinges as little as possible on our life and we are extracting as much emotional support as we want from them. According to this vet, this is a very selfish relationship. How do we keep finding all the cranks out there, and why do we keep quoting them? Somebody help me with that. I don't understand why we find, I mean, anyone can be a doctor. Hell, Joe Biden's a doctor. I don't know why we give these people 10 minutes of airtime.
I read, going down the rabbit hole on the web, this was from a person who believes the aliens are here and walking amongst us.
Yeah.
And was able to ask said life form, you know, what do you find most unusual about humans? And the response was, from this said life form that humans keep domestic pets. So if we can dig that guy up, that might add to your story. What a silly thing, right?
What a ridiculous concept. I mean, men have been and people have been connecting with animals since the beginning of mankind. Come on now. Trends in pet ownership could be taken as evidence of this. And remember, this is in The Guardian, so it's UK-based, but it's a worldwide publication that gets, millions and millions of viewers every day. Trends in pet ownership could be taken as evidence of this. 24% of all owners in the UK got their pet in the past 2 years, with a total of 5.4 million pets acquired since 2020. Well, what happened in 2020? COVID lockdowns, right? People weren't connecting with other human beings. What does that show us? It shows us that we need connections with each other. And if we're not getting it through human beings, we're going to get it through pets. Why do you think it is the crazy cat lady never leaves her house? Because she doesn't have the emotional human connections that she needs, so she replaces it with animals. If you're not getting what you need from human beings, you will find it somewhere else. That's why always, and God bless you if you have half a dozen animals in your house, but it seems like the higher your animal count goes, the weirder the owner is.
Well, to your point about finding it somewhere else, just Google a Florida man and go from there.
Yeah. You got literally Florida man has 6 alligators, in his bedroom or something like that. He tosses in a live goat every day and lets them go to town. Something crazy like that. I mean, it's sick, it's twisted, and I know you guys each have 2 pets and I only have 1. So I'm not saying you're weirder than me. I'm just pointing out once you get to I'd say once you get to 3 or 4 pets, you hit a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, it's like a herd then.
Yeah, exactly.
You're always looking for one of them.
Yeah.
At that point, right?
You are. So I think 2 is acceptable, but once you get beyond 2, then you start to get into that phase of what's going on here.
Chewy's making a mint off us. I'll tell you what.
Chewy's,
we got a 10-day delivery cycle going, man.
Well, that brings up a whole nother topic, too.
All right.
Young people are not having children at the same pace of prior generations.
Right.
They're replacing that with their animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you this. I love Woody. I do. Woody, if you're listening on Alexa this morning, I love you, man. That being said, you realize once you have children that the love you have for your pet is great, but it cannot be matched to a human being. It just can't. Never mind your own child. It cannot be matched. But the fact that we now have, multiple articles from big publications, Vox is a, lefty outlet, but it's a big publication, and they're making the case here against pet ownership. And now you got The Guardian saying, this whole thing about having domestic animals, it might be time to give those up. We got to let them live in their natural habitat. I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you actually got the pet's opinion on this, they'd be more than satisfied. At least most of them with decent conditions would be more than satisfied with their setup right now. The only problem Woody's got with his setup is he's got a 2-year-old right now who keeps pulling his tail. And, as he gets older, I do feel bad for him, but he's got to learn to deal with it because we're putting up with a hell of a lot more than that right now with the terrible 2s. 913-408-7710. 7:44. Happy Friday morning. Welcome in. Nick Haynes will be here next hour. Looking forward to that conversation with him. He had me on Weekend Review this week. What's up, Bill and Olathe? What do you got for me?
Well, I just wanted to call you out on that you said you couldn't have 3 pets, and I do say you can have 3 as long as the third is a cat, because they don't give a rip about you.
And I didn't say you couldn't have 3. I just think once you go beyond 2, when you each pet beyond 2 signals something, I think, about the household. That's all. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it says something.
Yeah, I believe your words were diminishing return, and with a cat, you're the only one given.
Yeah. That's true. Those selfish SOBs. You're right about that, Bill. That's why I don't get the cat thing. The cat is the cat's like a Democrat. They just want to take. They never give anything. They're all about taking. There's no giving. Dogs, it's mutual. 913-408-7710 at 7:45. Welcome in. Happy Friday morning. Oh, no. We have a lot of angry listeners who have half a dozen pets and are very upset right now. very upset on the text line. 913-408-7710.
I've been to some of them's house.
No, here's here's the thing. If you are on a farm, this does not count. Let me be very clear. If you have like a dozen animals on a farm, that's like a different. You don't qualify for what I'm talking about when I say once you get beyond 2 pets, you get into like weird cat lady area. I'm not talking about you sitting on 10 acres with, 2 horses, 4 goats, a half a dozen chickens. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the lady in 800 square feet with 7 cats that you walk into the house and you get hit by cat hair. That's what I'm talking about here.
Been there.
All right? I don't want to run in your circles, John. Jeez. But, but I go on to point out, I love my pet. I love my dog. But you have this movement that just I don't think it's a coincidence that Vox and The Guardian both write articles this week saying it's time to maybe give up our cats and dogs. Because here's what The Guardian also puts in this article. Even if our pets aren't depressed, perhaps they aren't living their best lives. Their best lives? I don't know. I think they got a pretty damn good life if you take care of them. They last a lot longer than they do if you were to throw them in the wild. I'll tell you that right now. Fred, hello.
How you doing?
I'm well, Fred. How are you, buddy? Happy Friday.
Okay, first of all, don't be dogging my grand kitten, Milo.
Okay,
Second of
Fred.
all, clearly these clowns have escaped from the circus to write these articles. As I was telling Mark, as a kid, young boy, you don't understand the term man's best friend because as a kid, your dog is your best friend. Well, when you get older, you realize he's never asked to borrow money. He doesn't ask to drive the Shelby. Never caught him at the mall with your neighbor, your brother, your boss. Doesn't talk bad about you behind your back. My dog, by far, is the best friend I have.
You got kids?
I've got one son and I've got some stepchildren.
Okay. All right. So I hope your son's not listening because it sounds like you're telling me you'd take the dog over your own son.
Hey, my grandkitten's the first one to greet me at the door when I go over there to visit them. My son's like a diva. The dog doesn't start trouble. He calls him his son, which is why he's my grandkitten. Milo doesn't cause trouble. Doesn't act like a diva. Here's the stupidest part of the whole thing.
No, I think we already got that part. Go ahead.
I'm sure Chihuahuas are going to survive outside with raccoons and stuff.
Yeah. Send them into the wild.
Mine almost got ate by a fox last week.
Yeah. Thank you, Fred. As Fred starts trashing his own son on a Friday on KCMO. Tell us how you really feel. Jeez. Hope Fred's poor son's not listening to the show here on a Friday morning. Gosh. Fred just comes out and tells us that his dog makes him happier than his own kid does. Crying out loud. Holy smokes. I didn't expect that one coming in hot. I thought maybe a texter would say it, but to call in and say, my dog makes me happier than my own kid. And my grandkitten meets me at the door before my son.
Never ask for money. Never ask for the Shelby. Good boy.
Good. Yeah. Keep your hands to yourself there. Oh, gosh. Whew. Also, this article goes on to note that the boredom of animals who are domestic pets is intense. Bring them to my house for 10 minutes, all right, with Claire and Chloe. I promise you, you're not going to be bored. Woody's fighting for his life there between getting rolled on and his tail pulled and, whacked with pillows. He takes it. He's a good sport about it, but he ain't bored. I promise you that.
My cats are real scarce when the grandkids come over.
I guarantee that's the case. Yeah, that's bingo. And you know what they say to do, by the way, with your pets? And I've read this. We used to do this actually before we had kids and Kate and I both worked. We'd leave the radio on. Apparently the dogs like that, the little noise.
Voice.
Yeah, they hear a voice. So we'd put on a little talk radio, and that's how Woody became a good conservative dog, Besides the fact that he was in rural Oklahoma when we found him, which is, plenty of that out there. But he kind of, I wasn't going to put on like woke NPR or something like that. I didn't want him coming home and preaching to me, Bernie Sanders lines and things of that nature. So I put on some talk radio back in the day when we would be gone, and, it became a good boy after that. It's amazing how that works. I'll end the hour with this. I mentioned Kevin McCarthy. Apparently, the Speaker of the House let it rip at some of the conservatives in the House of Representatives. They're all ticked off at him that he's not willing at this point to shut down the government over spending bill disputes with the Senate and the White House. People like Matt Gaetz, the guy who's got the forehead the size of Texas and the brain the size of Connecticut. He is upset with them because they're wanting him to shut down the government. He's wanting to just keep it open and kind of get through the next election. And then hopefully win the election and worry about spending after that. So according to a report from multiple outlets, but I'm reading this from Mediaite, McCarthy, in a heated closed-door meeting, as he faces down GOP mutiny, they were threatening to basically try to take him out of his position as Speaker of the House, and McCarthy screamed at fellow Republicans saying, "Move the effing motion." Basically saying, if you are that upset with me, move the effing motion, to Matt Gaetz and some of the others. And I'm, not here to defend Kevin McCarthy or Matt Gaetz. I think they each have their strong points depending on the issue. But what I will say is this. The people who now want to shut down the government over spending, the so-called conservatives, where were they when we spent $7 trillion during and after COVID? Like, where were they in 2020? If you were cheerleading spending during COVID, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you saying now's the time to stand up. You got a Democrat Senate and you got a Democrat White House. What you should do is everything to figure out a way to flip the Senate in 24, win the White House in 24, and then figure out how to cut spending. And by the way, considering Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid is like 60% of the spending in this country, you guys doing a dog and pony show on spending, which is going to be peanuts compared to actually what you need to do to save money right now for the American taxpayer, is not worth it today. It's just not. And I'm as fiscally conservative, I believe, as they come, in understanding that we're $30 trillion in debt and we can't continue this. But right now is not the time to have that fight. It's not. And if you were quiet during COVID, I really don't want to hear it.